Data Overview for East Cobb Middle School by Margo E. King for ITEC 7305, Data Analysis and School Improvement. Instructor, Dr. James Wright. Our story. The purpose of this presentation is to briefly tell the story of East Cobb Middle School's history of enrollment changes, achievements, struggles, and plans for the future. Our current enrollment as of November 2016 is 1,189 students, where fewer than 5% are American Indian, 5% are Asian, 45% of our students are Black, 25% of our students are Hispanic, 3% are multiracial, and 21% of our student population is white. Enrollment learner breakdown. Regular and on-level education students are 547. Gifted students, 176. Students with disabilities, 160. English language learners, 160. And remedial education students, 466. These are students who are categorized as remedial based on one or more of the following reasons. They performed in the lower quartile, they're economically disadvantaged, or they entered from a Title I feeder school. Students receiving free or reduced lunch pricing, 65% of our student population. 12% of our student population are students with disabilities. 13% of our student population are English language learners. Demographic changes over the past 5 years. From 2012 to 2016, we've seen a steady decline in our white student population, a consistent number of multiracial students, growth of our Hispanic student population, a decline in our Black student population, a steady number of Asian students in our population, and a small increase in American Indians in our population, American Indian students in our population. Looking at the numbers of students tested from years 2016 to 2012, our numbers range in the low 1200s to the upper 1100s. And I'm just going to kind of go through these slides relatively quickly. You'll see for 2016, the science and social studies numbers look relatively low compared to our reading and math. And that's because some students did not take this test because they qualified to take the high school course if they were in 8th grade. They may have been pulled out to take a different or alternative type of test, and their scores were not brought into this year's testing numbers. The number of students tested in each area is a little bit more closely tied. The numbers tested more closely represented our entire student population, which, as you can see, has declined maybe about fewer than 100 students since 2012. College and career ready performance indices from 2013 to 2015 relative to district and state. Cobb County Schools CCRPI single score exceeds state averages for 3 consecutive years. East Cobb Middle School has performance below the county averages, but at or above the state averages for the past 3 years. Looking at our scores for the 4 core subject areas, in English, the percentage of students scoring in each performance level on 2015 Georgia milestones for middle school grades. I'm going to focus on students that are performing in the beginning status. And if you look at East Cobb Middle School, we have a greater number of beginners compared to the county, but we're a fewer number of beginning learners compared to the state. The same is true in mathematics. We have a greater number of beginning learners than the county, but fewer number of beginning learners in the state. we have a relatively large number of beginning learners compared to the county and about the same beginning learners compared to the state. And similarly, in social studies, our beginning learner levels exceed that of the county, but are close to the same as that of the state. If you look back over this data, you can see developing learner groups are our greatest number. College and career ready performance indices by subgroup performance. This set of information, the legend kind of walks you through what each of the colors mean. I created this to kind of show you what we look like in terms of meeting state and subgroup performance targets or participation targets. And yellow is our color. As you can see, we have quite a bit of red this year, and that red is most seen with our English language learners and our Hispanic population. And that red indicates where the subgroups did not meet either the state or subgroup performance targets, or the subgroup met the participation rate but did not meet either the state performance target or subgroup performance target. And these are areas where we really need a lot of work. Students with disabilities also have a little bit more red this year than they did the previous year. And that yellow area is where the subgroup met but in one area but not meet in another. The PS group is a subgroup met participation rate and state performance targets but not the subgroup performance targets. So we got quite a bit of yellow, but those red areas are definitely areas of concern. Looking at our 8th grade, because our 8th grade lets us know, we have kids that are transitioning, of course, in a middle school setting, where we are with our reading. And this is what the state reports as a part of giving us our grade. And this year, I think we earned, in the past 2 years, we've been at a C. But the percentage of students in 8th grade at East Cobb achieving Lexile measures greater than 1,050. And from the years 2013 to 2015, we've seen a fluctuation of our Lexile scores. We've seen close to 75% in 2013, slightly over 75% in 2014 of 8th grade students with scores greater than 1,050. But then in 2015, last year when this was measured, we fell well below the 75% of our students meeting that target. Where do we need improvement? Black students for 2 consecutive years are meeting subgroup participation rate and subgroup performance targets in all subjects, but have not met state performance targets in any subject for 2 consecutive years. What are our strengths? Multiracial and white students have met both state and subgroup targets for English, mathematics, science, and social studies for 2 consecutive years. While Hispanic students are not meeting state or subgroup targets in mathematics, science, and social studies, they have met subgroup participation rate and subgroup performance targets in language arts. Why were we considered a focus school in 2012? Well, focus by definition, you had to be a Title I school, and you couldn't be a priority school. And they looked at 3 years of achievement gap scores. And for 3 years, our achievement gaps were too wide for our gifted learners, to our students with disabilities, and our English language learners, specifically our English language learners, because we ended up getting a lot of support from Metro RESA to change that. So we're seeing improvement, but it's slow going. Because if you look from year to year, of course, it's apples and oranges, because who's 8th grade and was reviewed and referenced in the previous slides are gone on to high school. So we're really looking at data of students that are moving from one grade level to the next, and that has to be looked at more closely, following those students and their improvement and achievement over the course of their time in middle school. Summing up our story, East Cobb Middle School's story is not an easy one to tell. The charts and tables make our strengths and weaknesses seem clear. Each year we return from our summer breaks, we review data overviews similar to the one I've created for this project, and we begin to map out our strategies to close achievement gaps. Current and future practices. In place now, we have tutorial programs with title funding, free help sessions every morning for the subject areas that we teach, flexible learning time, increased clubs and activities offered during school hours, because we know that increasing engagement and opportunities for learning outside of the school time or inside that school time can boost learning. Use of differentiation strategies for ELL, students with disabilities, and gifted learners. This year, we began the innovative classroom model where one particular teacher is teaching classes specifically in science, where half of the group represents the English language learner group, and the other are a variety of other learners, typically on-level learners, and tons of technology integration and more to come. These are among the many actions we have implemented to close achievement gaps and raise achievement levels for all learners. What we know about data, taken from Too Much of a Good Thing by Justin Minkle. Data is absolutely useless. It's what you do with it that matters. Data can give useful information to parents, teachers, and kids about what students know, what they don't know, and how much growth they've made. It can highlight strengths and weaknesses on the part of an individual, teachers, district, states, and nations. Data can also highlight kids lost in the mean, the small numbers of English learners, high poverty students, or African American children who may be struggling in a school where the majority of students are doing fine. What data can't do is fix any of the problems it unearths. It can't make a kid smarter, a teacher more effective, or a state more committed to its growing numbers of English learners. When we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work, and we no longer know which way to go. We have begun our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings. The beginning. Thank you.